for him for 11 years, and we finally got him! So the signing will happen after the talk. The seat numbers that you have, that is your signing number. We will be calling in groups of 10. We'll do some more housekeeping afterwards, but give it up for Jim!
Okay, hello, Michigan.
Hi.
Just like university students here, right? Maybe a couple? Yeah, go fighting dogmen. I don't really like to give speeches when I show up to places because it feels like I'm taking up too much of the conversation. So normally what I do is like a question and answer session because I kind of react better to that. But for it to work, someone has to ask a question. Oh, great, thank you.
I'm wondering what your inspiration is for martial arts in your books, and I'm also wondering why Murphy doesn't do a little more Tai Chi that seems really appropriate for the size and the amount of injuries he's had.
The question is, where do I get the inspiration for my martial arts, and why doesn't Murphy do a little more Tai Chi, which would be good for her size and the injury she have? Actually, I think she would probably be better off. She would probably be best off with Wing Chun, which was a martial art that was designed for it. But Aikido's pretty good as well. The inspiration for my martial arts came from my martial arts experience. I've studied a bunch of stuff. Started with Ryukyu Kempo, Goju Shoryu. I've done some Kung Fu. I've done Taekwondo. I did Aikido for a few minutes, but I had to quit. Because it's a beautiful art. Aikido is kind of the art of how dumb would you like to look? Come up with that hard. But as a fighter, I'm really impatient, so that's not really very good art for me. So, but yeah, I've done a bunch of stuff. I've done fencing and some Western European longsword stuff. But yeah, that's where it came from. There. Ready?
I would like to know if there were fallen in the denarian coins when Judas received them as payment.
Were there fallen in the denarian coins when Judas received them as payment? No, there weren't. No, because it was the act of betrayal that got them in there. Until that, the coins were not unholy enough to house a demon.
I just figured it seemed like a pretty big payment to have demons in a coin. Like, it seems bigger than the equivalent of about $200.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Wait, I have two questions.
Okay.
So, are there ever any instances, I wrote them down. Are there ever any instances when the law of physics and the way magic works come into direct opposition with each other? And in that case, which would win out, physics or magic?
Okay. Is there ever a situation where the laws of physics and the laws of magic interfere with each other? And if so, where do they, who wins? Yeah, stuff like making fire appear out of nowhere, physics doesn't agree with that so much. But that's kind of the whole point of writing magic. Although I try to when I was designing the magic system, the basis that I used for the philosophy of the magic system was just simple Newtonian physics. But yeah, you're gonna have a wizard running around. Reality's gonna sit in the back.
Okay, and my other question is, I've watched you a lot on YouTube, so this is cool seeing you in person. And so I know how you wrote the Dresden Files. It started off with a writing class that you took with Debbie Chester, and you said you wrote it to prove her wrong, and you didn't think that was how you wrote a book. So what I'm really curious is, before you did that process, how were you writing books? Like, how did you think a book should be written?
Oh, okay. The question was I had learned to write from Debbie Chester at University of Oklahoma, and I struggled with her for a long time. And before that, what did I think made a good book? And the answer to that question is the book that isn't nearly as much work. Once you start getting into the storycraft stuff, then you've got to. It takes a lot more braining to get anything done. So, but yeah, I was disagreeing with her because I was, I wasn't all that bright. I was just certain that I knew more than she did because, I have a bachelor's degree in English literature with an emphasis in creative writing, whereas she had merely published 40 novels. Yeah, hand up back here.
Did you have any experience with service dog always prior to writing series? Because the way a mouse is written, especially later, is just very authentic.
Do I have experience with service dogs?
Yeah.
Is kind of the question due to the way that I wrote Mouse, and the answer is a little. I had a friend who I was friends with when she was going through the getting a service dog process, and so I got to I got to watch her do that, and then she wound up with this awesome little black and white Australian Shepherd who could do everything.
I really think the president does need a big dog with a sign that says, "Forgive this man for his stupidity."
Well, yeah, but Mouse wouldn't do that to Harry's ego. He's more considerate than that. And he's a lot more diplomatic than Harry. How about right here?
So this is a beer state, big time. So I'm kind of curious. McAnally's brew, his home brew. Is there a beer that inspired that? I mean, were you knocking back at KBS one day and you were like,
Is there a beer that inspired McAnally's home brew? No, I didn't drink alcohol until I was 43. I think that's the first time I drank. So no. I just had a lot of friends who were really into beer, so I knew what they would want to read about. Same thing with cats in the Cinder Spires. I never actually never lived with a cat when I wrote the cats for the Cinder Spires, but I knew cat people. And then Kitty and I decided to get a cat, and now we have 4 cats. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's in my best interest to figure out if that's like a mathematical or a geometric or a logarithmic progression, because she wants 2 kids. Let's see, I haven't been looking over here. Right here.
So there's a whole box full of Mouse's litter mates knocking around in Tibet somewhere. Are they as special as he is? And what are they doing?
There's a whole box full of Mouse's litter mates knocking around in Tibet somewhere, apparently. Are they as special as he is, and what are they doing? To learn the answer, you can buy the book Briefcases, and it will tell you the answer to your question. Well, it'll tell you part of the answer and leave a bit more of it cloudy and vague, because we're not there yet. But there you go. Yeah.
All right. Without going into any spoilerish for anybody who might not have read Due Day yet, will there be a redemption arc for those 2? For the shadowed one.
What are you talking about? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Why would I tell you the answer to that question?
I live in eternal hope.
Tell me what's going to happen next in the book.
$2 by Cody.
Well, I don't know, maybe. I don't have everything planned out, man. I'm not quite sure how this series is going to end yet. Right here against the wall here.
Love the book.
Thank you very much.
I had to ask about the Cinder Spires because I was wondering, for the next book, are you going to do a continuation of the same characters, or are you going to take it from like totally different?
Oh no, same characters. I mean, when we go back to the Cinder Spires, it'll be the same characters, and we'll get. I've got to add 2 more cats because now we've got 4 cats. and if I put them in the book, they're deductible. So yeah. Always think. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, so the Winter Court is an art store. Where is the Summer Court?
Well, I mean, yeah, the Winter Court is an Arctis tour. Where is the Summer Court? Yeah, they've got their own spots. Summer Court, but the Summer Court is not fixed. The Summer Court is mobile. So essentially, the Summer Court follows summer around the world.
Oh.
Yeah. Right here in the hat.
Yes. Would you ever consider doing a crossover between any other of the supernatural powerhouses like Buffy or Supernatural?
Would I consider doing a crossover with supernatural powerhouses like Buffy and Supernatural? I don't know, maybe it'd be kind of cool. I got the comics people the folks at Dynamite want me to do a Harry Dresden Vampirella Red Sonja crossover. Which would be awesome because they'll probably walk off into the sunset together, and Harry will just be there like, man, I'm never gonna get laid. Yeah, in the ground.
So, if there was ever a Dresden movie in the future, who would you personally like to see in the role of Nicodemus? Christoph Waltz or Gary Oldman? Thank you.
No, not Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman gets to be the Merlin, I think.
I had Bill Nye as the Merlin.
Oh yeah, Bill Nye is the Merlin?
Bill Nye might be an
I
excellent
don't
cosplay
really
maker.
Casting too much in my head it's an anime cartoon. So I mean honestly, I think the story would be best served by an animated series because in an animated series you can burn down Chicago or not burn down Chicago and it's the same cost really. When you go live, you've got all this stuff. I mean the special effects budgets the special effects costs are just amazing. So yeah, I think it'd be better animated.
HBO, just saying HBO.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I'll just call up the CEO of HBO and tell him, all right, you can do it now. But no, man, Netflix. Jeez. Here at the very back, there's a hand I can barely see. Yeah.
I have a question about Maggie.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but Zoo Day. Maggie's talking about books she received from Molly. That book that Molly wrote, she also gave to little Harry. Is this foreshadowing that maybe little Harry will have powers too?
What do you mean two? There's nobody there who has powers except Molly. But I mean, as far as it goes, that stuff is foreshadowing in a way. Because it's stuff that I'm setting up. Because Maggie kind of lives in sort of her own universe, and I'm planning on writing like a young adult series of Maggie going off to school with Mouse, and Harry's going to send her to St. Mark's Academy of the Gifted and Talented, which it should have been St. Mark's Academy of the Resourceful and Talented because then it would have been smart. And instead it's just smacked. So she's gonna go off to school, and Maggie really does have issues. I mean, she's seen some bad things, and it's done bad things to her. She really does need the service dog. I mean, she's got terrible social anxiety. She's got terrible general anxiety. She has trouble talking to people and communicating. She has trouble getting her feelings out to everybody but Mouse. And she needs the dog. And plus, that way Mouse gets to go to school. And I think he's actually probably a little bit smarter than Maggie, so he'll be holding up flashcards for her and stuff like that.
I have a follow-up question to what you just said that I've always wondered. In old days, when Harry goes back and he gets his dog back out of the house and they go off because Maggie is out in the botanical gardens at a Halloween party. That means when she goes back home, her dog is not there. Wouldn't that have freaked her out?
In cold days, but what did Harry borrow Mouse for? I'm trying to remember.
Go fight the outsiders at the island.
Yeah,
and he stays overnight there too. And so I mean, wouldn't that have freaked her out?
Probably.
I mean, I get freaked out when a note on the door.
Maybe not as much as their father being torn apart by outsiders, but yeah, it would probably right here in the glasses.
Hey Jim, in Changes, Harry uses his full name. He announces it while casting a spell. He's trying to break concentration. Have there been repercussions from that as of yet? Are they coming?
I don't know. Have there been?
I haven't seen it.
I don't remember writing any. Okay. But at the same time, that was also kind of dropping a challenge to the entire world.
Yeah.
Which was, that's kind of the mindset he was in at that time. It might not have been the wisest thing to do, but on the other hand, a lot of the people who were there did wind up kind of exploding. So. Here at the very back, sir.
In the few minutes when you're probably not writing, what genres do you like to read? What authors do you like to read?
What authors do I like to read? My absolute favorite author is Robert B. Parker.
Yay!
Yeah, he's a wonderful author. He wrote about 40 of the Spencer books, and then maybe 20 more. of side character books, and I mean he didn't even start writing until he was like 44 or something like that. And then he got all that done, and he died here a couple years ago at the keyboard like a man. And that's how I want to go out. Let's see who else. I mean, whenever anybody asks me who I'm reading, it's always I always forget people, and then I randomly blurt out names of people I forgot as I go along through the rest of the question. So, let's see. Naomi Novik. I love the Temeraire novels. Brandon Sanderson. He's okay. Rothfuss. He's okay. Guys like that. I still go back and reread like my classic stuff. I'll go back and reread the Prydain Chronicles. I'll go back and reread Narnia. I'll go back and reread The Lord of the Rings. I mean, those are my favorite places, and I go back there every so often. Oh, The Black Company by Glenn Cook. There's a new Black Company book coming. I want that book.
Now you know how we.
Right here.
I was just wondering, how did you find Harry's voice, like when you were first coming up with it? Because he's just so much fun to be around. I love being in his head and just like how he describes everything, how real it seems. I was just wondering how you came up with his personality.
How did I come up with Harry's voice? For one thing, I think voice is something that is not something that authors sort of plot out so much as it is people who are looking at their work afterwards apply the label to it. There's all kinds of things from English and that I learned when I was an English major about analysis and so on that did me no good whatsoever in actually telling a story, and actually probably set my career back about 3 years because I was so busy fighting with the person who actually knew what she was doing. That said, I just started writing them. I sat down. I couldn't sleep one night, and I think I was at home visiting my parents, and I just sat down with the keyboard and was looking at it and was trying to figure out the story I was going to do to prove my teacher wrong. And I said, well, what do I do? And I thought, well, just sit down and start writing. My name is Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden. Conjure by it at your own risk. And it was just, I mean, that was the when I was writing his background, it just came out. I don't know, man. Don't ask me that. I don't know how it works. Let's see. How about right here?
When you're writing and rereading or rewriting, how do you know when this is what I want to say? These words are the right words.
When I'm writing, how do I know what I want to say? How do I know that these words are the right words? I don't. No one does. You take a shot and hope it works out.
Going along with favorite novels and everything. Favorite role-playing game.
Favorite role-playing game: Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the original edition, not the Green Ronin one. Green Ronin cleaned up the game and made it a lot nicer, but I also think they took some of the personality and flair away from it. So I like the original a little bit better. And yeah, I run lots of stuff in that, or I have in the past. I haven't run it with the crew up here in Colorado yet, because we're busy playing 5th edition D&D. But I'm running the Birthright campaign from 2nd edition, and which is just an amazing campaign, and we're having a terribly good time playing it. So, my kid running around as a halfling necromancer. Over here. Yeah.
Oh, so 2 questions. First of all, I know last I heard that the rights for movies and TV shows had reverted to you. Has there any movement on that? And then secondly, if Stormfront the book is not the first thing that comes up under a Google search, and it's kind of harshing my ability to get people into the books. Like, I can't tell them to just Google search Stormfront. I mean, Dresden Files is better, but if you could go back and change the name to Semi-Auto Magic and change it back to that, would you?
No.
No?
No, I wouldn't change the name. I mean, I've written what I've written. There it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
but the movie rights, have they reverted?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got the movie rights, but the way all that stuff works in Hollywood is nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. Everything happens at once.
Yeah.
Which is why the people who work in the business in Hollywood are so insane, because they live in the perpetual everything's happening at once.
Right.
So right now we're at the nothing is happening stage, where there's always like lots of talk. I think there's 3 production companies that have queried me in recent months. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
honestly, I mean, like I said, honestly, I think it would be better served to be an animated series.
Right. Animated
and,
movie,
and
though.
Tyler Walpole is like, hey, I think we could do this. We could do concept art, put it together. And here's my, my partner is into animation, and we could actually do something like that. I'm like, ooh, that might be fun, but. In my copious spare time, I'll go produce a television show.
Hopefully the animated Spider-Man movie will do well, and then that'll give them an idea of, like, we can do action-adventure movies.
I'm sorry, what?
The animated Spider-Man movie that's coming out to theaters in a few
Oh,
months.
yeah, I guess we'll see how that does.
If that does well, maybe they'll consider it. That'd be good.
Right here.
Just blank for a second there.
Oh, don't worry, I do that all the time. Sometimes right in the middle of answers. I'm tired, folks. I'm real tired.
For the animated show, or what your plans are for the movie stuff, have you ever thought to do any sort of thing with Kickstarter so fans could maybe help produce it by contributing towards it?
Yeah, have I ever thought of doing a Kickstarter so that fans could contribute toward the thing to help produce it? Oh, no. I mean, the money that you need for that is extreme. I mean, and for me to use it properly, I would have to be doing a lot of the work myself, and I don't know that I like you that much.
Well, Fred do the collaborative card game.
Oh yeah, well sure. Well, Fred's awesome though. So,
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Let's go over here, right here.
Okay, so what is your favorite new experience that authorship has provided?
What is my favorite new experience that authorship has provided? It's when I get to spend the money to do things like I'm about to adopt a puppy. I know, I'm so excited. And no, his name's not Mouse. His name is Brutus. He's a pit bull. Yeah. And I'll probably call him Brew. I'll be like, come on, Brew, because he's like 8 weeks old. So, but anyway, but I was able to. Oh, I've got him. Don't think I don't. But I was able to get him because the folks at Missouri Pit Bull Rescue they run this big pit bull shelter, and so they were really happy to help me because I built them a pit bull shelter. It's when I get to do things like that. I got to help build a women's shelter down in Butler County. I helped build a community outreach center for a local church that was really into actually helping the people in their neighborhood. And it's when I get to do stuff like that, that's the cool part. Because really what I need is I drive a fairly cheap car. I mostly, shop for my clothes secondhand. I'm just not really terribly interested in a lot of the trappings. But when I get to go help someone, that changes everything. That is the real. Although I do not skip on the gaming PC. That is. I mean, yeah, I drive a Honda. I drive a Honda CRV, but my gaming PC is a Ferrari, man. Here against the back wall.
Harry and Murphy.
Uh-huh.
No.
Biggest on again and off again in the history of literature. Or will she, won't they?
Oh yeah, the whole will they, won't they? Yeah.
Will we get an answer? Will it be in the next book?
What?
Will we get an answer? And will it be in the next book?
I'm not going to tell you that. You're just going to have to read the book and find out. Honestly, I'm not sure myself. Harry's love life is the one thing I didn't plan out. I was planning out all the stuff that you would read about in the history books of the Dresden Files world, and I was planning all that stuff out, but I wanted his love life to be something a little bit more organic. As it turns out, if you love someone, it sort of changes your plans once in a while. So that got awfully complicated. But we'll see what happens, man. And let's see, back here.
First of all, thank you for rescuing the pit bull. They get such bad rap. But if you could pick any world that you've read or that you've created, which one would you want to be in and live in?
If there's any world that I read or created, which one would I want to be living in? And the answer to that is none of them, because they are all created by sadistic gods. Whose mission in life is to make people in that world suffer appealingly. I mean, gosh, that's what I do. Good Lord. You should see what I do to the players in my game. I mean, I believe it. Yeah.
Sorry. In the aeronautics,
Uh-huh.
I do the audio.
Uh-huh.
I could see that happening as an anime. As I was listening.
Oh yes.
Well, see above regarding I'm not a television producer, but yeah, I mean, well, at the moment, I mean, maybe when we get 3 or 4 books in, it might start generating more interest. But at the moment, we've only got the 1 book out, and I've got to get the next one done. But I mean, yeah, it would make a great anime. I mean, that would be cool. I'd be okay with that.
It's just as I was listening to it, I could just see it happening.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like,
Totally an anime.
yeah. Well, that would be a lot of fun. That'd be cool. Yeah, back here.
Have you ever, as you were writing, just gotten frustrated and written like a jump the shark, terrible ending, just to kind of, you know what, I'm done with this?
Have I ever been writing and written a jump the shark, terrible ending because I was so frustrated and be like, no, I'm just done with this? I don't think so. That doesn't sound very professional, you know. When you're working on something, you can't really afford to let your own negative emotions get in the way because, you know, I'm still a professional doing a job, and if I don't do it, I don't get paid, and I like to eat. But yeah, I mean, well, there you go. A pro doesn't do that, or shouldn't do that at least. Yeah, right here, blue shirt. Or black, yeah, there's some blue there somewhere. I'm sorry, I broke my glasses the first day of the tour. I've been wandering around like Mr. Magoo for the past
After all this time with Harry and the gang, what's still the most fun or exciting part for you?
After all this time with Harry and the gang, what's the most fun or exciting part? Making Harry suffer. Making Harry's friends suffer. Making Harry's enemies look really cool. You know, that's all fun stuff. But the real fun stuff is for me these days is like the little character moments that I'll get to throw in. You know, just the little asides from the characters and how they play off each other. That's very fun to me. That said, it's also as we progress through this series, each book gets harder and harder to write because there's more material behind me. Literally. There's more material behind me that I have to keep straight. See, the way it works is by the time I'm done writing a book and cleaning it up and making another, you know, reading through with another pass and having the beta readers look at it, and then the copy editor, and the line editor, the main editor, the story editor, and by the time the book is done, I've seen about between 8 and 11 slightly different versions of the same story. But I don't always remember which story wound up being the final one. Because, you know, like there's so much to keep track of. So I don't really know the Dresden Files storyline like you guys know it. I know the Dresden Files cloud of parallel realities that are almost the same. And it gets harder and harder to keep track of. That's why I have to use the fan Wikipedia. Because you guys are way more fanatic about this than me. Right here.
Who's more powerful, the Merlin or the First Lord?
Not applicable, really. Because if the Merlin was in the First Lord's territory, he'd lose. And if the First Lord was in the Merlin's territory, he wouldn't have any Furies.
At the end, at the finale of the Codex, though.
The First Lord had been dead by then. He'd been dead for like a whole book.
You could use whichever First Lord you wanted to.
Oh, okay. Right here, Spidey shirt.
So when the council was first formed, did they, from the word go, have a black staff and a gatekeeper, or were those things they realized down the road, hey, we really kind of need these?
When the council was first formed, did they have the black staff and the gatekeeper, or were those positions created as they went along? The origins of the council are pretty nebulous. I mean, they were like a kind of an advisory board to the Roman Senate for a long time. It was only after the fall of Rome that Merlin was like, okay, we gotta get all these people together, or we're just gonna have all these wizard kings, you know, fighting each other the entire time. So that was why he formed the council. The additional roles that are there, and those aren't the only two. They're just the two that Harry knows about because they're wizards and they like to keep things secret. But yeah, they had to create those roles to fill a need as they went along. I mean, it's like everything. No, I can't say that. Okay, yeah.
Two-part question is, when you wrote Bob and created his character, was that based off of someone in your own personal life, or did you just write out of your mind?
When I wrote Bob and created his character, was it based off someone in my personal life, or did it just come out of my mind? It was actually an inside joke with my writing teacher. Because, okay, well, this is what happened. I wrote the first chapter of Stormfront, and I walked in and put it down on a desk. And now bear in mind that Debbie did not believe in pulling punches. She wanted to get her students ready for the real world. So, she would, her critique included things like rolling up my chapter, leaning across my desk, popping me on the head with it and saying, "What were you thinking?" There was all kinds of stuff like that. And I mean, she did not hold back. She's like, the real world, when you're dealing with real people in the real world, they aren't either. So get ready, kid. And but when I handed her those chapters, she looks at me, she reads them, and then she looks up and she says, "Well, you did it." I said, "What?" She says, "You did it. This is of professional quality. I do not know if this will be the first thing that you sell, but you will be able to sell this at some point." I said, "Oh my gosh." And she says, "Now, okay, now that you've done this much, I want you to bring me in an outline of the rest of it next week." So I came in next week, and she meant an outline for the rest of the book. I kind of roll in with an outline for a 20 novel series with a big old 3 doorstop trilogy at the end of it. Yeah. I mean, and she just kind of she's kind of looking over it, and I'm just babbling about it and also excited. And she had just got me on board, so she didn't want to kill my enthusiasm now that I was actually working with her. So she didn't say anything negative to me. I mean, I can still see the expression on her face. As she just kind of looked at me with just kind of like the thought bubble was like, "Okay, Wile E. Coyote, you just run off that cliff. There's no stopping you at this point." This kind of expression on her face. And because I mean, it was an impossible thing. I was never going to be able to sell a 20-book series to a publisher. But she didn't want to discourage me, so she didn't tell me that. So I did it. But anyway, but after we'd had that conversation, she was like, I sort of more meant I wanted to know what was going to happen in the rest of this book. And I'm like, oh well, Harry's going to go back and after this, and he's got his own like sidekick that he can talk to that's a little bit more of an expert in magic, but is not mobile and can't go anywhere. But Harry can consult with him, and Debbie looks at me and says, "Okay, good. Just don't make him a talking head." Which is, I mean, that's writer parlance for a character who shows up with no purpose other than to dispense information and then goes away. There's not really any character. You remember the old the pulp science fiction films in the 50s? As you know, Bob, the common ant can lift 20 times its own body weight. Like that. And it's like, well, yeah, but if Bob knows that, why are you telling him? So I walked back in the next week with the first appearance of Bob the Skull, the literal talking head named Bob. And she reads that and kind of looks up at me at the end of the chapter and it's like, "You think you're funny, don't you?" And that's where Bob the Skull came from.
The second part of the question was the title of your books. Do you know them going into it, or it just happens as you write?
The title. Do I know the titles as I'm going into the books, or does it happen as I write? No, I planned them all out ahead of time. That was part of the outlines. Was titles for everything. But I had to start adjusting things on the fly because they wouldn't let me use. I was using puns at first. Let's see. It was semi-auto magic. I think full moon was always full moon. Grave peril was. What was the name of that? I forget now. Oh, I think was that the one where no, it wasn't the one where we met Thomas. That was 5. Family Secrets was the original title of the Death Masks. But anyway, there were all these different pun titles and stuff that I had, and they were all like, no, we can't have pun titles. That's Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett. And I was like, oh yeah, I would hate to be associated with him. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. In Cold Days, you named several serial killers who have formerly been Winter Knights. You've alluded in other Q&As to George Washington having formerly been a wielder of Esperachius.
Well, actually, I think you got it backwards. There were several Winter Knights who were also serial killers.
Okay. Well, either way, just kind of framing the question I was going to ask, if you were going to point me at one person who used to be a Summer Knight and one person who used to wield Feudalachians that I could go read a biography for. Who do I need to look up?
I don't know. I'd have to go research that. I mean, it's not like I've thought out every Summer Knight that's ever happened.
No, but you might have had a few that have come to mind as, okay, these were. It was worth asking.
Not so far. I mean, not really. Here and there, there's different people in history. Summer Knights are generally artists, musicians, and writers. Because summer is really into the arts. Winter Knight, and the Winter Knight is usually somebody who would be murdering you anyway. Because Mab doesn't like to train new people.
Jerry Garcia and Jack the Ripper.
Right here.
In the Cold Day, the book where Harry wakes up in the Cold Case Files, Mab mentions Tam Lin. Is that a foreshadowing to the eventual story end of Murphy and Harry's interaction? Because how Tam Lin.
Okay, when Mab mentions Tam Lin, is that put in as intentional foreshadowing for Harry and Murphy's relationship? No, because I don't have it planned. I mean, or maybe it might be. We kind of have to see how it turns out. This to a certain degree, I'm along for the ride in this as much as you guys are. I just get to see it a lot sooner. Right here, man. Yeah.
Two questions now, thanks to one of your answers. First question though is, are you considering a return so we can find out what happened with the Alarans and the Canum? Did they drive the Vord from the Canum lands? Second question, you mentioned the other things that have not happened that you didn't do in the Dresden Files. Can you give us something that didn't happen that will never happen so you're not spoiling anything?
Okay. Yeah. As far as other choices that I could have made in the Dresden Files, the biggest crossroads was in changes, because at the end of it, Harry could have done 3 different things that he could have pulled off. He could have made a deal with Mab. He could have remembered. He still has memorized because he looked at it with his true sight, Kemmler's book, and he could have pulled off a Dark Hallow and become a necromancer, or he could have summoned Lashiel's coin to get the power he needed to go get Maggie. So if he'd taken one of the other 2 paths, it would have been much different. If he'd gone necromancer, basically his friends would keep getting killed and it wouldn't matter so much. That would be a very different story if it was Dresden, the most powerful necromancer on the planet.
Did you seriously consider doing one of those 2?
Of course.
Okay.
No, I considered all of them.
Okay.
And then the other one was summoning Lashiel, and then I would have had to write a lot more sex scenes. What? I would. I don't make the rules, people. But yeah, those were all things that I had that Harry had to stop, and I had to sit down in his point of view and figure out, if he's gonna sign a contract with someone, who's it gonna be? And so he looked around. He decided that the one that he could really trust was Mab, because she might be an awful monster, but she's honest and she keeps her word. And so he figured that was his best shot of being able to wriggle out of it somehow. Mab's like, yeah, kid, that's cute. Let's see. I'm sorry, what?
There was a second part of that.
Oh, what was the other part of that?
Are we going to see a return to Alara to see if the Alarans?
I don't have any plans to go back there right now.
Okay.
I guess maybe if I have to someday pay off my gambling debts or something.
Please start gambling more then, because I love that series. I'd love to see
you very much.
return.
Yeah, there's a couple places I could go back to that. Because the one story I could do is I could go back to the Cursor Academy. The next class in the Cursor Academy, which is going to have Aaron's running the academy, and Fidelius is off in the background Dumbledoring things, but the new cursors would be like the first Marat cursor, the first Canum cursor, stuff like that I would actually be able to get in there and play with. The other option that I have is, let's just be honest here, people. This book is that book was essentially Roman legionaries versus the Zerg. That's what I was writing. So naturally, the next place to go back to the story is when the Protoss show up. And I'll give them a coat of paint and file off the serial numbers, but we'll all know. Yeah, right here. Yeah, green shirt, please.
So I as a big fan of audiobooks in general, I love the way James Marsters reads the books. I'm just wondering how you ended up with him. Did you go through a bunch of people?
How did I end up with Marsters?
Yeah.
Okay, this is what happened. One day I was at home, and it was the day after I had shut my right index finger in the hinge of a garage door as it came down. Yeah. Yeah, you can't get away from that until you open the garage door. 'Cause I panicked and tried. You know, when you're in the emergency room and the doctor says, "Well, the only thing we can really do is drill a hole through your fingernail and let some of that liquid out," and you go, "Yeah, do it now." you know you're hurt. Wait, I lost track of the question. Marsters, how did I get it? Anyway, so I'm at home the next day, and I get this phone call, and it's from a small publishing company called Buzzy Multimedia, and they say, "Hey, we would like to make audios of the Dresden Files," and what I heard was, "We would like to pay for your family's health insurance for 6 months." And I was like, "Yes!" And then they called me back a week later, and they said, "And we got Spike from Buffy to do the reading for you," and I was like, "Who?" That's not a troll. And that was pretty much all there was to it. I got to meet James a couple of times. I mean, the fact that he's doing it now, he's one of the most highly paid actors in Hollywood. In fact, I think in 2014, he was the highest paid actor in Hollywood. Yeah, he makes a lot of money. He's invested his money very intelligently, apparently. So he's got like cologne and stuff like that. Yeah, he does a bit of music and things too. But the point is that we absolutely cannot afford James Marsters. He's doing it because he likes the books. Yeah. I mean, he still gets paid and all, but not what he's worth. Not what he's worth. And but he's a really nice guy. I've met him a couple of times to talk to him. He actually is. He's just kind of a very friendly spaz. He's a good guy. And,
he's the voice of Dresden.
And but anyway, yeah. So when I was recording Marcone for the Briefcases audio, and I was talking to the audio director over the headphones while I was doing it, and the audio director was like, "Oh, hey, I talked to James this morning, and he wanted me to get a message to you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, what?" He's like, "He wants to know when Peace Talks is going to be done." And I'm like, and then I thought, "Oh, James is a fan." Okay. But that's the other reason that I think an animated series would be better, because we can get Marsters to be Dresden. We might be able to do that. You know, that's theoretically possible.
Answer to that question.
I just gave it to you. I was standing right in front of the microphone and everything. Right here.
I was wondering, what exactly does Starborn mean? I know it means that Harry was born under specific confluence that made him powerful enough to damage outsiders, but what does it really mean for that confluence in that particular day?
Yeah. What does being Starborn really mean for that particular confluence and so on? Well, I wish I could tell you, but the series is written in first person, and Harry doesn't know. So, it's probably not important. I'm pretty sure it won't ever come up.
So, love the references that Harry makes to pop culture, Star Wars, that sort of thing in particular. Are there any other franchises or series or anything that you have a real love for, a real passion for, that you wanted to make references to, but you're like, no one's gonna get that?
Is there anything that I love that I haven't made references to?
Right. That you think
I hope not. I mean, that's kind of the look. I'm a nerd. I'm not just a nerd. I LARP. I mean, that's how deep I'm in. And this story is Dresden in general is the story that I wanted to read and couldn't find. So I decided I would have to do it myself. And all that said, yeah, I love making the references. I love dropping things in. I'm writing this for people who will get the references, and that's you guys. And it doesn't matter how obscure the reference is. It's like, oh, I'll make a reference to to this obscure Greek Greek mathematician. Nope, there's somebody in the background snickering, as the reference because they got the joke, and I'm like, nerds.
I love it.
Right here.
Yeah. So you've established in the books that wizards, those with magical power, are able to heal from physical disabilities, physical injuries.
Mhm.
What about from mental injuries such as Alzheimer's or depression or something from that standpoint? Is that been brought in, or is that something that?
Yeah, can we the question is, do wizards recover not just from physical injuries, but from psychological injuries? The same way, things like Alzheimer's, depression, or things like depression. They're still people, but they're better off in terms of if you get to the actual physical nuts and bolts, it usually gets put back together a little bit better than it would for a regular person. Psychologically, they're not quite as strong, but they're no stronger than a normal human being. But they're also human beings who have spent their lives, and their lives of sometimes centuries, seeking mental clarity and mental discipline. So they're usually pretty solid, but Alzheimer's is still a real threat for wizards as they age, and maybe a super threat depending on the wizard. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason the White Council, even though they're all they all show up together, everybody kind of shows up like, is he looking twitchy to you? Like that. But it's something that they have to deal with, but it's not really. It's background stuff. I mean, it's not stuff that I'm playing with right now.
Last question.
Okay, this is the last one, and then we'll get some books signed. Right here, right here.
Do you listen to music when you write? If yes, what do you like to listen to? If no, are there still songs or bands or albums that you relate to your stories or characters?
Okay, good question. Do I listen to music while I write? And are there songs, band, albums that I relate to the characters? Yeah, everybody's got a theme song. For the most part. Harry's got a couple, which is "Gone Away" by Offspring, and "The Thing I Hate" by Stabbing Western. Those are his theme songs. And there's other people with other ones, but every time I start writing on a new book, I put a new playlist together of things that I think will be appropriate. I'm using a lot of like epic Mozart on this one, where they take classical music, and then they give it the film trailer treatment with lots of blah. But there's going to be some epic conflict in this one, so I need some epic music in the background. When I'm writing steampunk, it's Lindsey Sterling. That's the music I listen to for that. Or if I'm not listening to music, I'll have a movie on the television, and it'll be a movie that either I've seen so many times I don't need to look up to know what's going on, or a movie that's terrible enough that I'll only look up for the good parts. And I was like, oh, yep, there goes Harley Quinn. Okay, that was fun. And then go back to but yeah, I mean, music is there. I mean, I still want to write my epic fantasy epic where music and magic are the same thing, but it's going to take me a while to get there. So I'm not a grown up enough writer yet to do that. But when I grow up, yeah, I want to write big old fantasy. So. All right, guys, thank you very much for putting up with me.
On your tickets, you have a seat number. That is your signing number. If you had will call, you will not know what that is, and you should come over to